Now we're going to talk a little bit more about working with layers and the layers palette from the from the previous session lesson. We talked about working a little bit with layers, but one thing I want to point out in the layers palette, in the upper right hand corner, there's a small arrow, and that can be very easily overlooked. But when you see that little arrow and you click on that, that will give you a drop down menu. And again, here's again where you can work with some of the functionality of the layers palette. If you want to create a new layer, you can work with it that way. If you want to duplicate a layer, even though we covered that just in that previous session, this is just another way you can do that. And I use this palette or this drop down layer quite a bit. But it has different things that you can do if you want to look at your layer properties, your blending options, create a clipping mask. Oftentimes, if I'm wanting to, I want to reduce my number of layers. I want to what we call merge a layer. Then I can do that. If I want to flatten the whole thing, which sometimes you will need to do, and save it as a different file type, then you can do that here as well. But for example, if I wanted to say I wanted to merge two layers here, in fact, what you need to do is to click on one of the layers, then click on another layer. You go under, again, that arrow, and then you have where it says you can merge layers. That wasn't visible a few moments ago. But when you select two layers and you want to merge those together, here is where you can do that as well. And so I just click on Merge Layers, and then it has made those two layers into one layer. And there'll be cases where you work with layers where you, in fact, want to do that. And one thing I want to point out, you can always undo anything that you do along the way when you're working with Photoshop. You can do what I call when you're working on a Mac, it's Command Z. Command Z will undo the previous action that you just took. So you can remember, you can very easily undo that particular thing that you just did. But again, look under the arrow, upper right hand corner of the layers palette, and that's going to give you some options here that you can work with in working with the layers palette.